Hello, everyone, and welcome to GobSmacked. It seems that a few of you guys were really interested in GobSmacked being the continued name, but we actually haven't gotten around to making that poll, so we're just going to go ahead and stick with GobSmacked for right now. This is going to be episode 2, and today's crew is a little bit different than last week. Some people are busy moving, others
Say it
are
artificial.
working.
We're the B team.
The B team. Well, you see, I'm the C team, so it's okay.
I'm the F team because F is for Fox.
There you go.
Oh yeah. See, that's the enthusiasm we need.
Today we've got Crow from Crow's Perch, FoxyBard,
Hi.
Melvin is here, and RPG Tales.
Hello.
Oh, what's up?
We were just discussing Warhammer 40k, its origins.
No, this thing isn't a bad descriptor.
What's that?
You said by mistake. Seems accurate
No.
to describe
Yeah,
a certain subset of 40k fans. Not certainly far from all of them. Not even close to all of them. But there's a subset. You know the ones.
The real life Nurgleites.
Yeah, those are the ones.
So anyway, we were discussing Warhammer 40k and its origins in reflection versus, I guess, the fan base. Anyway, Melvin, what were you saying about the creators versus how the game came about?
What were we talking about? So we were talking about like the difference in the YouTube communities with like the people who focus on the lore.
Yeah.
How a lot of times that's where I guess some of the toxic traces are, or like a certain disposition of being a Warhammer fan. And then
Like getting kind of lost in the weeds of it.
yeah,
Is that
and-
kind of why that happens, right? Like misunderstanding that I guess to lay the groundwork to anybody who doesn't understand what the fuck's going on right now. Warhammer 40k, really big in Britain. You've probably seen it. Big macho space marine guys with chainswords hacking each other to pieces, is supposed to be a parody of essentially a hyper fascist spacefaring empire that's slowly being eaten alive by demons and aliens and all that good stuff. But anyway, go on.
yeah, exactly. It's like taking, so Dune, we were talking about, of course, is the big foundation for 40K. And it's like taking Dune and mixing it with just the stuff that was popular with the British counterculture in the 80s. So like 2000 AD magazine, which is Judge Dredd, and you've got like heavy metal. It was like Metal Hurlant coming out of France with Mobius and all that crazy sci-fi stuff. And like aliens, it's just pretty much everything these people liked. They just all combine it and use like as the glue. And yeah, it's kind of over time changed, right? Like Warhammer's first edition was a game that had a DM. It was like two people facing off in a scenario, and then you had a DM who arbitrated the fight.
Oh, really?
Hey, Dark Heresy still exists.
Yeah, that was like, that's true. Like, yeah,
Dark
Dark
Heresy
Heresy is
is legit.
definitely.
Like,
Yeah,
there's still a 40k RPG, and that's also where you get some very weird people about it.
In a weird way,
Unfortunately-
it's kind of like more D&D than what D&D pretends it is, right? Like D&D wants you to believe it's not like a tabletop miniature game that's like about combat with like story stuff in between. And then when Warhammer like Rogue Trader, the first edition came out, it was like, yeah, this is what we are.
It's like, yeah, we're just shooting. And there's
Yeah.
a story that sometimes pop up
Every-
every now and again.
Every now and then this other will tell you about why you're shooting each other.
And you're like, cool. So when do I get the heavy las? When do I get my twin linked plasma fucking
What
plasma
about
gun?
your heavy flamer or whatever?
Oh,
Actually, can I have one of the orc guns
All-
that works because they will it into being to
all
work?
the orc stuff is so funny.
Need more darker.
So something I found out, so I've been reading like a lot of Dune, or pretty much I've just been scouring like wikis. And you know, like I feel like when you say you're reading a lot of lore, it sounds like you're doing something more impressive. It's just a wiki page. But
Well, listen, that's
occasional
where
YouTube video.
see-
everyone uses wikis as their sources. That's how it goes.
It's
Definitely.
perfectly valid, I would say. I think like every teacher in middle school, like Wikipedia is not a source. Now we're like, okay, education systems failed us. So in
Pretty much.
Dune, there's like, oh man, this is such big spoilers. Anyways, there's an emperor. Okay, I'll be kind of vague about this.
Spoilers for Dune.
Huge Dune spoilers for like everything past the first book. But there's like an emperor who enacts something called the Golden Path, which is essentially the understanding that like mankind is heading towards a huge, crazy challenge. Like there's something on the other side of the universe that knows about us and it's going to find us one day. And I have to prepare humanity for this. And the way that he does it is he enacts a 3,500 year tyrannical, horrible, oppressive regime on mankind. And then afterwards, it kind of facilitates them the juice to kind of like evolve essentially and to start like going to other planets and expand and all this stuff. So I have a feeling that the Warhammer meta plot is just that pretty much. Like the Emperor, this is all just according to plan, like the big Imperium falling into ruin and corruption, chaos, like knocking at the door, all of that stuff is all just a big part of some, expansive cosmic plan. And one day the Emperor is going to wake up and be like, I did it all for you, and go back to his home planet or something.
Except they lose.
Oh.
Chaos wins. You know Warhammer Fantasy? Warhammer Fantasy is a sequel to 40K. 40K happened first. Warhammer Fantasy is what happens after they all get blasted back to the medieval ages, basically, because chaos wins.
I think that's a theory, right? Like, I don't know if there's a canonical
one of
connection
them.
between them.
As far as I know, yeah, canonically, as far as I know, 40K, I believe me, I went pretty extensively when I attempted to make a Warhammer Fantasy character and directly tie them into my 40K character.
You did a
Then
lot
I
of reading
fell
on
into a
Wiki.
rabbit hole. Yeah, I did a lot of
yes.
extensive journalistic research on Wikipedia, and as far as I know, yeah, it's not connected to the lore of 40K, but there are similarities. Like I think aren't all the Chaos Gods the same too?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
Slanesh and
There's a
all
ton
them.
of similarities. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
the Tomb Kings and the Necrons are thematically the same. One is like a literal dynastic, like Egyptian style mummy empire, and the other are, the same thing but robot aliens, but Terminator.
Awesome. I
Hey,
love the
cool.
Necrons.
Yeah,
They're
looks
so
like it.
cool.
They're set in the same multiverse, but
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. I think that's kind of what Age of Sigmar they tried to get into, was like it's a big multiverse and there's a ton of like planes. Age of Sigmar is kind of like Planescape. Yeah.
Age,
Mm.
Age of
Yeah.
Age of Sigmar was them saying Warhammer Fantasy isn't selling as well as 40K. What if we took all the popular aesthetic from 40K and put it in fantasy?
Yeah, I heard
You
it
know
with
what I think
Sigmarians.
my like meta five head take on that is they just
What?
wanted to make the bases round. The square bases
Ooh.
can't compare to the circle bases, and they wanted to make them round.
Well,
So they changed their entire fucking lore.
The entire thing just to put
does
in.
fantasy still do like units and formations, or is it
No, I
now
don't think
individual
so.
units?
I don't know the rules, but I think that they've definitely changed that. So you're not moving like trays of units like you did
That's a shame because that was the one place you had in wargaming to do that. Oh well.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh well, everything must be the same. Distill everything, convert it all to the same system. Strip
Hey,
away all of the
can't-
fancy bits. Everything must eventually become Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition.
Yeah, there's something to be said about modularity, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, having those circular bases, there is something to be said about that.
Oh, I'm not
know,
saying that that's
but-
bad.
Mm.
I'm saying taking away the one place where you can do X thing is
I mean,
unfortunate.
having trays. I'm not sure if
Yes!
I'd want to have a tray. That sounds annoying.
They were cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. I mean, I never like played those games, so I don't really have any knowledge of the mechanics.
Did you
Besides
play
like
Dark
some
Heresy,
basic.
by the way?
One of my friends when I was in high school played a lot of Dark Heresy.
Mm.
He's actually also the one who told me that Fantasy was the sequel to 40K.
Oh, gotcha.
It's a cool theory. I think it just kind of there's a lot of
That's fair. The reason I thought it was
true.
true, the reason I thought it was true is because the person who told it to me was super into Warhammer.
Mm.
You know,
There's
that
a
reminds
lot
me-
of lore, like rabbit holes to fall into, though. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I
yeah.
would believe that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Anything involving the Blackstone obelisk. I think they finally did something with that recently when they isn't the galaxy like torn in half right now?
I
In the
have
start of like the 42nd
no
millennium.
idea.
Called
I
it
don't
the
know.
Cicatrix Maledictum.
That sounds familiar. There's so many details. Warhammer lore for me is like what I do on my phone before I go to sleep. I'm just gonna fall down these rabbit holes until I fall asleep. Because it's literally endless.
I play mobile games to collect cute. Never mind.
You do your dailies.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes.
It's like you're like,
Listen,
my
Arknights
brain
is
needs to go to
actually really
sleep.
fun, okay? Arknights is actually fun, okay?
I've never tried that.
I've
I've
had a
kind
bunch
of sworn off mobile games ever since I got off Hearthstone. Did you guys ever play
Fair.
Hearthstone?
I did.
Yeah.
I was so
I-
bad at it.
I played it on PC and realized it was a terrible card game, and then stopped playing it.
Yeah, I didn't make that realization till about like 2 years in. I
Ooh.
hate having to spend so much fucking money just to be able to keep up with the meta. It
Oh,
would
that's-
drive me insane. Yeah, you gotta spend.
Yeah.
You basically have to pre-order those packs if you want to be able to catch up. Because there are so many people, whenever their new season starts, who will buy those packs. And if you don't catch on, if you don't realize what's fucking broken, what was it? There was this one card that I really, really wanted to get. It was called like Shutterwalk. And it was so broken it would like crash the game. But I fucking after spending all that money, I think it was like $90 to buy all those card packs to finally have enough to be able to get that. Like I realized, oh fuck, I played this, it's like 3 months later, and now I have to do that again. And I was just like, what the fuck am I doing?
Now,
Like,
that
why
kind
am I
of thing,
spending all this fucking money?
well, that kind of thing can be true of a lot of other card games. The difference is with Hearthstone, you don't get any cards. You get some pixels on a screen.
Yeah, but they do animations when they hit the other pixel.
Oh my
Like the
God.
gold ones, and they're cute, and they're like, woo.
Well,
Yeah,
I
oh my
mean,
God.
Based on art, you know?
I can't sell them.
So
Why?
is this
You
just
can
going to
sell
lead
your
into
account.
us talking about how Blizzard is like
Ooh.
self-inflated itself?
Oh,
Y'all
yeah,
want to get
Blizzard-
into the discourse?
Yeah, the topical Discord. I feel like all the bones have been picked clean now by everybody.
I
They're
will
really,
hold-
Dice Goblins have to say about Blizzard.
it
I
was
will hold
wrong.
off.
They did bad things. We don't condone it. Everyone's like, oh my god, you guys hear what Dice Goblin said? They did. They don't condone the Blizzard abuse.
Yeah.
Wow. And they all
I
Good
will
clapped.
thing-
hold off if you
Good
all
thing the Dice
for
Goblins
me.
came in.
to
Yeah.
hold off. I will restrain myself.
You're gonna go the
We'll
other
just
way.
post it on the Discord.
You're gonna subvert our expectations.
Hell yeah. Hang in there, Foxy.
People with power
Oh,
should
okay.
do whatever they want. What is that like Chinatown line? Where it's like, did everyone see? Have you all seen Chinatown?
no. What?
No.
What's that?
No, I haven't.
It's like a neo-noir movie that's about, it like takes place in California in like the 40s, I think, or 50s. Actually,
Oh.
probably the 30s. But it's like, it's got Jack Nicholson in it when he was kind of, yeah, he was pretty
Ooh.
young in that. But
Wow.
Sounds like it's a good.
it's a really good movie made by a pretty problematic guy. It's Roman Polanski.
Mm.
But there's like the villain. Geez, big spoilers. You know what? If you all haven't seen Chinatown, go watch it. All right, but it's about
Yeah, maybe
it is very much
maybe
about the
not
abuse of power.
more spoilers.
Yeah.
Is this just Melvin spoils everything day?
Yeah, I'll just tell you like the ending to.
We
this
gotta
classic
tell
movie.
Kunik. We gotta tell Kunik to put that as the title.
Yeah,
This episode.
probably. Melvin spoils everything.
Go watch Chinatown if you haven't. That's all I gotta say.
So card games. Someone brought up card games. That means I have to talk about Magic the Gathering for the requisite 2 minutes at least, I think.
I've played Magic. I played it for a commercial. Did I tell you about this?
Whoa.
No,
I feel
you
like
didn't.
I told. I feel like I told Artificial
You've
DM
told me about this. Yeah, it's dope.
You're in a Magic
Yeah.
commercial?
You can see the back of my head in one of the preview commercial videos for Kaladesh, I think the expansion was called, or something Kaladesh. But
Oh.
that was the first time I ever played Magic the Gathering was for a commercial. They
That's
had
funny.
the guys that were there from Wizards, well, not Wizards, but it was the company that they hired out to. They kind of like showed us the ins and outs, and like one of the other actresses just kind of showed me like how to play because her and her husband play. And yeah, that was the first time I ever played Magic the Gathering. And they let us
That's-
keep the booster packs, which is pretty cool.
That's interesting. I have way too many Magic cards. Way too many. I
You can
could
take mine.
talk your ears off for hours. I could fill up several podcasts worth of content just talking about Magic. I'm going to hold off because I don't hate you all.
Thank you.
The PSA for
Allegedly.
the podcast is if somebody tries to introduce you to Magic the Gathering, go buy weed. It will be far cheaper for you in the long run.
Yeah, but what about the
Oh, yeah.
investment?
And it will be
Yeah,
less.
yeah, it's an investment, bro.
Yeah.
Telling
gotta
you're
get
telling
that
that to
Sigma
the
male grind
person
set.
with so many Magic cards.
You joke, but actually, if I was to sell off my entire collection of cards, I would make more money than I put into it.
Yee.
So,
Pretty rad.
I
I mean, that is.
wish-
I do think that is a cool thing about card games.
well, physical card games.
Yeah.
Digital card games, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Do you
Unless they
remember
make
that?
an NFT
Oh.
card game.
Oh, an NFT card game.
I'm sure that's.
I guess
No.
that would do the same
No.
thing, wouldn't it?
No.
That would be interesting.
No.
if
No.
if blockchains persist, yeah.
No.
I could see that working. I could
No.
see a lot of people getting into that. It would just have to have the right mechanics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would say that they did try that about 3 years ago before NFTs was a real thing, and it completely failed.
Oh,
But
Oh, who did
now
it?
everybody, everyone tried to create so many different things because there was like crypto kitties and all these other
Yeah.
everyone was just trying to create like, oh, put it on Ethereum and everything, and so there were so many people trying it, and the people who did crypto kitties, they made a lot of money at the time, and then obviously it's kind of fallen off since then. But now with
Yeah.
this whole NFT craze, now is probably when all those old projects are like, oh, let's just redo it again.
Like
See, the
selling
thing with-
digital car. Oh, God.
The thing with trying to do NFTs with card games is an NFT isn't the card. The NFT is a bit of HTML that points to a digital representation of the card. You aren't actually getting the card when you get if you were to get an NFT version of it, so you wouldn't be able to use it for play. And that's the whole point of getting the cards. That's why they hold value at all, is to use them for play.
Not entirely true. Collectors don't use their cards.
right.
You know, like even
But-
people who do like physical collections, right?
But the thing is,
Uh.
the value of the cards is determined by use of play.
Not always. So
Well, I
Would you
think
not-
there is
okay.
something to be said about the application of being able to use an object in space, as opposed to like you need, like a digital platform to access it. That's always going to carry weight to it, right? Unless
Yeah.
we become like purely digital beings.
yes,
Or be
it,
Well,
downloaded
and
into the
even-
consciousness. into
Even
the collective
NFTs
consciousness.
for
How it is.
even NFTs for digital card games, again, an NFT isn't a card. It's literally a string of HTML characters that point to an address that contains a representation of the card. That's all an NFT is.
Yeah, but
They're
then you can
utterly
extrapolate
useless and formless.
it to what is a card, right? It's just like a piece of cardboard with like ink and pigment.
Yeah,
and
I guess
hollow
it's
foil on
just
it.
as much of a representation, right?
It's all symbols.
as the
yeah, it's
actual
all stuff that
mechanics
we
of itself.
Ascribe value to. Yeah.
Except there's actually a physical object that can change hands pretty easily without
I
needing
guess, like-
to destroy the environment to do it also.
I guess like
so-
on that same vein,
Yeah.
wouldn't you say that like there's a connection to that from us of even going away from things like the gold standard? Like, yeah, if it's not tied to like a physical thing anymore, doesn't it still hold value as long as people continue to use it? Like as long as people hold a value to it?
Oh, no, currency is completely fake and made up, and it's utter nonsense.
But so are the cards, right?
Yeah,
Sure,
The way I
but
think
they're
about-
actual physical objects.
The way I think about it is like if you went to a group of people in like the 1400s and you gave them a card, they'd be like, "Oh, cool! This looks really cool. Like I don't really understand what's going on, but this is a very beautiful object." And then if you gave them, like a code for an NFT, like you gave them I forgot what those things are called, but yeah, like essentially the codes. They're gonna be like, "I know what this is. I literally have no idea what this is."
right.
But then if you gave that to somebody in 2020.
They're like, "I'm rich."
Yeah, there's like they understand that like symbol that what that string of code is attached to
Actually, most people have
has like
no idea what NFTs are.
yeah, but I guess the whole thing is like you're really appealing to like with all this stuff, it's not to the general public, right? It's to like people who are multimillionaires off of owning like digital assets who really like control this whole economy in a sense, right? Like that's kind of part of the
Yeah.
point.
You
Like
say
the-
that
with
like it's a good
Bitcoin.
thing.
It's not a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing. I just think that's the way it works. It's like how markets have been set up.
Yeah.
But then
point
you
is-
can even go further and say, well, what about things like gold itself? We say that it's worth a lot of money, but back in the other times, if you were not in Europe and you just went to a whole bunch of Native Americans, you'd just be like, "Oh, give me that shiny rock. You don't need that. That's worthless, right?"
Yeah.
No, they
Yeah.
used gold for a lot of things and refined it and used it for quite a lot of purposes, ceremonial and stuff like that.
There was like the king in Mali. Like, what was that guy who was super rich? It's like Masa
I think I know who
Musa.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And he did like the pilgrimage to Mecca because it's like, yeah, I guess by that point they had an interaction with Islam. And so he was going from Mali to Mecca, and on the way he like passed Egypt and all these places. And they gave out so much gold that the gold standard or the gold value bottomed out in all those places, and it became worthless.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
And yeah, gold has a value because it was assigned a value. Really,
The scarcity of that, right?
yeah, scarcity, et cetera, et cetera. It's also pretty. So people
Really
were
pretty.
like, ooh, maybe we should care about this.
It makes you look like you're glowing when you wear it.
It was also very easy to fashion into coins, and then the coins could just be a thing that carried an amount of value, and it was more the purpose of it being a coin than the fact that it was made of gold originally.
Speaking of this, by the way, you brought up that story, Melvin, about when he had traveled about between a bunch of these different like cities and towns and whatnot, and basically crashed their economies by giving their gold and whatnot. To bring this back into RPGs, do you guys ever do anything like that? If your adventurers go down into like a dungeon and come back up with like a small fortune and start buying all this stuff in town and basically start throwing their money around, don't you think like it'd be interesting to even play into that like suddenly a bunch of people start moving into the town and inflation starts going up and people start getting priced out, and next thing you know, like you just destroyed an entire town just by bringing your spoils back in? Do you guys ever
That would be
play with
totally
anything
dope.
like that?
Because
Yeah, right.
But
you already have in your games. Yes, if your players are doing a lot of business with a certain NPC, they're going to start carrying better wares, and the game scales a little bit. But to do something like that would be pretty momentous. It's like, oh yes, we constantly
it's like you go
bring
to your favorite. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
So
You
what's
go to your
funny
favorite
about
general
that-
store. Well,
What-
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is it's like dynamic. You're making this have a real consequence. It's like you go into the town, you gave this merchant, you went to the general store, and you're like, oh, he's like, oh, like I'll charge you like this much silver for these supplies. And then some people, I've seen this happen all the time, to where they're sitting on so much gold, they'll just be like, oh, I'll just pay you 10 gold for it because I don't want to count in silver. Next thing you know, you ask that general merchant guy, like, hey, we want supplies, and he's like, yeah, 15 gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how much it costs around here now. Like, I don't know, it's kind of interesting to me to kind of try to imagine what are the actual effects of you going in and suddenly just injecting that wealth, currency, whatever you want to call it, like into this place. Like, what does that actually do to it? I don't know. I find it kind of, maybe it's just because I've been seeing this a lot recently. I keep fucking ranting off about things like the OSR, so I'm not going to say that. I just think it lends to have that kind of believability in the world.
Yeah.
I just like stuff like that.
So
Economies
on
are
that
cool
same
games.
vein, the system that I like, and yeah, I've got to plug it once, it's my thing. In first edition Pathfinder, I know, say what you're gonna say, Crow.
I will refrain.
Okay, thank you. There's actually rules for that sort of thing. Based on the size of a town, only X amount of commerce can even take place because the town doesn't have the infrastructure or the funds or the ability to deal in amounts of gold that are greater than would be feasible for the size of the population. So a lot of the times, if someone wants to sell an object that's worth 10,000 gold, you have to go to a big city to find anyone who's even willing to purchase that.
Yeah, like you got to set up someone to buy that shit off you.
And the same is true for purchasing items. Most stuff just straight up isn't available everywhere. Like, yeah, you can get your basic supplies, your like 25 gold longsword or whatever.
Yeah.
You can get that anywhere. But if you
Hey,
want to
Melvin,
get...
you got some static going on right now. It sounds like there's a silent two zombie that's sneaking up behind you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let me figure that out. I'll be right back.
Oh, it's all good.
Now it's good.
Now it's gone.
But yeah,
yeah.
if you want
Is
to
it
buy
back?
like a...
Yeah, it sounded like you
better.
left your radio, like Henry Townsend left his radio on behind you.
Oh, weird. Is it gone
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gone now.
come and go, start and stop.
Okay.
All right, yeah. If you want to buy a +3 flaming keen rapier, you're gonna have to go to a real big city to get that, or make it yourself with a feat.
I mean, I don't think that's restricted
It's
to
interesting 'cause
Pathfinder, but I think what Crow was talking about more is you come up, you just completely decimate because, oh yeah, I'm going to buy everything we need for rooms for everybody in the party and a couple rounds of drinks for the entire tavern. Here's 50 gold to the bartender. Don't worry about it. Extra's a tip because we're going to make a ruckus of this place. Well, then that bartender just got 5 times the week's worth amount of gold that they would expect to earn because it's a small town. Obviously, they're going to go off on a spending spree. And if the party keeps doing this over and over and over, it's going to have a big impact on any community.
Yeah, I was gonna say doing it once would probably not really be that much of an impact, but repeatedly, absolutely, you're gonna destabilize that economy.
Interesting way to
Crash this poor little
scale.
town.
Like if you're playing with scale in a way where copper is very much, you're on the extremely local village level.
Mhm.
And when you move to a town, you're thinking about silver more. And then maybe you go to a city or some kind of lavish kingdom and gold is entering the equation. And then what's above it? It's like
Platinum.
electrium or
Or-
what is that?
Electrum? I
Electrum.
don't think anyone
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
uses it.
And then
The
there's
thing
also
that nobody uses
Platinum,
because why would you?
Yeah.
Then platinum is like on the epic scale, right? Where you've got like
No.
big giant works and stuff.
Okay, platinum. It's 10 platinum, or it's 10 gold to a platinum, and it's 5 gold to an electrum, and that's why no one uses it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like too many.
Conversions.
Denominations.
Yeah, there's too many of them. So in a way, if you think about that, attribute it to scale and the economy, it could work in an interesting way. But yeah, I feel like the way gold functions in kind of standard D&D play is like pretty arbitrary at some point, right? Like it doesn't really matter eventually. Whereas
Yeah.
in something like an OSR game, it really plays into the themes of being a scrappy adventurer who's doing extremely dangerous work for
Oh,
a little
definitely.
more reward.
And
To echo that,
I guess this makes a lot
when
more
I
sense
played-
than 5e.
Yeah, I was gonna say to echo that when I played Fifth Edition, there were several occasions where after doing like an actual like dungeon, like one of the modules or something like that, you'd end up with so much money. There's pretty much nothing to do with it. When I played Best Left Buried recently, we were going into a dungeon. We lost one of our player characters. We also lost our dog Badger, R.I.P. Badger.
Dog named Badger.
Pour one out for
He
Badger.
was the goodest boy. Yeah, pour one out for Badger.
Pour one out for Badger.
Yeah, poor Badger. So yeah, we lost our goodest boy. The moment we went back home, it's like, oh god, we have to clear our stress, which in this game is grip. We have to get more grip. We have to heal ourselves. Oh god, we lost 2 people. We have to hire more people now. So now we need hirelings. We ran into a earlier where we were carrying too much shit and it was weighing us down, so then we couldn't run as fast. And it's like, oh, we have all these compiling things on us. I have to spend all my money just so I can just make it to tomorrow, and I'm still behind. Like, I'm missing bullets for my gun. I think I only have like 12 when I had like 20. Like, I wasn't able to stock up all the way. I think I lost one of my 10-foot poles, which is an essential item.
What's the setting like? So is it kind of like a almost Western I'm picturing, or?
Yeah, so the idea we have is kind of like a weird West Americana kind of setting to where we're in this like think like a
back,
southern
Melvin.
gothic kind of mansion right now. Yeah, that's like owned by these vampires. And the thing we have with our vampires is that they're connected to our kind of Feywild parallel, which we just call the Wild. So they're connected to this, and their mansion is this like living kind of tree. So like if you peel back the layers of the wood and everything, you see that like the roots of the tree are splayed all across this mansion. And so this order of like witch hunters came by, and they found out that they were all vampires. They burned the whole mansion down, and we're going in there because apparently the mansion's still there. And like we're in this like mercenary company, and they just kind of like hired us out to get rid of whatever would still be there, and then basically just loot the place. Like we have like looting rights basically to rob the whole fucking place. But then our witch hunter died. Wait, no, he didn't die. He almost died in like the first session. So we were by ourselves with no badass witch hunter guy.
I'm just thinking of Vin Diesel.
Yeah, basically is that. Like, it's like some Vin Diesel tough guy. Like, he had this thing to where he played him up almost like a DMPC in the beginning. He was like a total badass. He didn't talk to us much, ordered us around. And then I was just thinking about, like, we gotta betray this guy. But then, like, in the first, like, scene, we were supposed to meet up with somebody, and they weren't there. So we go into the mansion. The doors close behind us. The typical horror movie thing starts happening. And then we start descending into further into the mansion. He knows where to go to where supposedly coffins of these vampires would be in, like, the lower floors. So we start going down to the lower floors. And then he looks, like, on edge. And I asked him, like, what the fuck is going on? And he's like, didn't you have a guy who you were supposed to meet? And he's like, yeah, he's supposed to be here. And then we end up just like going down anyway to the bottom, and we end up in the coffins. And then I had this weird like, all right,
Like in the
this
coffin?
guy's like leading us to our death,
You
like
guys.
down into like the catacombs, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought you all
So-
were just like, you know what? We're here. Let's
We
take a
just
nap.
showed it-
Quick,
let's
hide in
just
these
take a nap.
coffins.
Yeah, lovely coffins. But yeah, like so.
Scooby-Doo with gag.
You go
So
in
we
one
descend
coffin and then you
into-
come out of a different coffin and suddenly you've got a puzzle.
Like you run to the left and then you pop up in the right,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
he's like running at you from the other side.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
actually, I'm
And
stealing
then
this
you're
idea
chasing
for a
him, and then he
puzzle.
realizes, and he turns around. You know?
I'm stealing this coffin idea for a puzzle.
Oh yeah.
That's a really good idea.
That sounds like it could freak out some people in a cool way.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
I love tormenting my players.
That's like,
Psychological
okay.
torment? Oh yes. Do you
I
know what I did
people
to them on
say,
Monday?
like, oh, don't be so like adversarial towards your players and whatnot. It's like it's not to be adversarial. It's just kind of fun fucking with them.
Do you want to know what I did on
I
Monday?
think you can be adversarial if you give them cool shit.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
Monday, I had them confronted with a mirror that showed them their greatest fears, and the only way for them to go through the room and get out of it was to confess them to the rest of the party assembled. I purposely called a break before this so that they could think really hard about what those greatest fears were.
And trust falls.
Oh, it was fun.
That sounds awesome.
It was drama.
That sounds heavy. Yeah. I've been
The
doing
drama's
this.
honestly my favorite part.
And
Oh,
then
yeah.
they did a fun puzzle where they have to move colored blocks to make a pattern.
I've been doing this thing where like I contacted a local game store. I put together this proposal and I was like, I want to run Call of Cthulhu professionally. And I've
That'd be
been doing
dope.
that for the past 3 weeks. And it's just like a nice little side gig to do. I created like, so, you know, when you think of Call of Cthulhu, you think about like the traditional 20s setting. You think about like Massachusetts and like, you know, you're investigating stuff. It's kind of creepy. You're getting a lot of weird stuff. And then eventually you encounter something.
Right.
And you get like,
There's a lot of build up, right?
there's a ton of build up, ton of investigation. It's really effective because once you do encounter the thing, there's so much weight. And it
Yeah.
usually action resolves pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean when it
Action.
fucking hits you, it usually like one shots you.
I
Yeah.
know action like that time that I ripped a zombified raccoon to shreds with my bare hands. I remember that, Melvin.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, you guys ran a Call of Cthulhu game for Foxy and Kunik, didn't you?
Yeah. And a few other players. That was like kind of me getting used to the rules again and running stuff up to starting at that store. Yeah, that was an interesting one. Actually, no, it's funny because I was running Edge of Darkness, which is a pretty popular introductory scenario to Call of Cthulhu. And I realized when I was running that and a few others that I really like doing stuff that's more improvisational, right? That like you can kind of run with and not necessarily have like a ton of materials to reference. Because I feel like I do think it sort of bores players over time, or it weighs on
Do
them.
you feel like you're more of like the bullet points and tables kind of DM? Rather
I'm
than
like a tables DM at this
yeah.
point. So what happened was I created this game setting called The Feast, and the idea is that players they're playing as humans in the 1920s, but they're being pulled out of their time by this moon called the Feasting Moon. It's just kind of like this like hollow smile looking moon. And it's taking them to this place called the Chaos Frontier. There's like a ton of Warhammer. And the Chaos Frontier is like this, it's essentially a disc that surrounds this thing in the middle called Nuclear Oblivion. And the part of the Chaos Frontier is called the Deep Dark Forest, which is where they wake up. They wake up in this cabin. And they've essentially been taken out of time in order to be feasted on by the corrupted, which are like essentially corrupted humans who have sworn allegiance to various entities that
So like Wendigos, basically. They're just like cannibal people.
yeah, and they're mutated and stuff, so they are like kind of, you know, chaos followers in a way, and they've got like different war bands around the place, but I'm using like entities from all of the Lovecraft mythos and also Warhammer. I'm putting it all in there. It's all kitchen sink shit, but
Okay.
I designed it so that it's all just tables run the whole thing. I just roll dice and be like, okay, this is where you're going, or this is who you encounter, whatever. Yeah, that's been really fun.
That's cool. Meanwhile, what I'm running is basically magical fantasy battle college.
Oh, that
Nice.
sounds cool.
It's fun. It's been a lot of fun, actually.
Is it like what kind of setting?
It's fantasy. It's a homebrew world, but the best part, the most fun for me, has been naming the classes that they're taking, because I have to try to make it sound like college courses, right?
Yeah,
so
That's
we have
true.
we have courses such as mediation and conflict resolution, principles of magical combat, introduction to espionage, that kind of stuff. And it's just really fun.
Such a fun setting for anything.
Psionics 101. Yeah.
The best name was Build a Boss Workshop.
Oh, some dungeoneering, dungeon crafting.
So basically, I had them fight a bunch of various monsters, individual examples of them to get kind of an idea of this is what this monster can do, this and that and that. And then I gave them a list of monster properties. And for each of the things they killed, they had to assign it to 2 different properties.
So
And
it's
so
kind of like
after,
they were learning on the fly. Like this is the test here
Well-
that they're taking at this class.
well, no, because after they assigned things to properties, I took those assignments and I built a custom homebrew monster
Ooh.
from the pieces part that they put together to create
cool.
their boss. They literally built a boss out of the stuff they killed. It's Build a Boss Workshop.
Okay, that's
pretty
pretty
Oh,
unique.
that's really fun.
That's a good way to do it.
It was so
Chimeric.
much fun. And because I planned it out well enough in ahead and had just like set things for what each of the categories I came up with did, I was able to build like a fully custom mob in like 10 minutes.
Oh, that's really, yeah, I was wondering about that, like how you would handle the stats, but that's awesome that it actually is like functional in that way.
Oh yeah, it was fun. It was hard, but it was fun.
Yeah, it's really satisfying when you can like build a system that kind of runs itself.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
that was probably my favorite of these that I've ever run, of all the various classes and stuff, because that was so cool.
Yeah, because if you're DMing and you're kind of like, I feel like the method of DMing where you have a bunch of stuff prepared and it's all like these well realized, thought out things is like very much it's kind of like the opposite of like work smart, not hard. Because
Yeah.
you're putting in
Yeah.
so much work that players can just like.
It's
not
also
do
kind
at
of
all.
like a pipe dream that your first game
Yeah.
is going to be this perfect thing, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's like
Oh,
a
it never
fantasy.
will.
you
Like,
have it all ready, you have it all prepared, you have every room mapped out. It's like, no,
Yeah,
like
'cause
the
either-
reason why wizards can do that.
Because either your players are going to obliterate whatever you plan, or they won't interact with it at all. And then you just sit there and go, crap. But yeah, as you were saying,
Yeah, I think, like,
Wizards
there's
is able to produce these big things because they're not there sitting there walking the players through actually playing. They got to present you,
Yeah, definitely.
the DM, with as much material as they can and go fill the rest up with your own, you know?
and it's
Yeah,
like
and they have an
usually,
entire game design team. It's just you when you're at the table, you know?
Mhm.
It really is like they're selling you a fantasy. I guess Curse of Strahd is very popular and people run it well, but that must be because of the way it was designed, right? I heard
It's
a little bit
literally been
more
designed for
involved.
20 years, right?
It's
Yeah.
super
so of course it's
modular.
going to be good.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like,
Like
It has to be
there's
modular.
so many twists and turns it can take, and no 2 campaigns are gonna be the same.
Yeah.
And you can run it by the book every time, and still never gonna be the same.
I was
it's
playing.
one of the, oh, good.
I was going to say real quick. I was playing in a what is it? The one where all the demons are waking up in the Underdark.
Into the Abyss?
Yeah, Into the Abyss. I was playing in a Into the Abyss game, and the whole time I was just like, "Wake me up inside." Like it was. I was like, I can't do this. I cannot.
It's fucking
do
boring.
This. It's
Wait,
so
wait,
real.
yeah.
boring.
It's okay. There are some recent Wizards adventures that I really did not like as well. That's one of them. Into the Abyss. Oh god, it's so
It's
boring.
like a bad
And then-
video game.
Yeah, and then Storm King's Thunder is just like the outline of Skyrim, except I'm not going to help you at all. Also, there's an entire town called Waterdeep that isn't actually in this adventure. You have to actually look in a different fucking book to find it. Here you go.
Yeah.
Also, it's really important.
They're like, hey, Waterdeep, you know that one, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah, you know
what
what
I'm talking about.
You
So
know
you
what-
gave
I-
us money for that one already, didn't you?
Yeah, don't you want to expand? your
Didn't
knowledge
you?
on Waterdeep?
Yeah,
I think that people.
the lizard eyes, Chris Perkins with the fucking.
Oh God, he's a Yuan-Ti. I think
Yeah.
people go into it like with DMing. I guess like one of the mistakes you can make with DMing, or it can work, depends on your group, right? But is to kind of assume that you are an author going into like, and people are gonna be playing in your really super important like world, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
no, never gonna happen.
It's not that. It's like it's not like engaging with that part of you. It's engaging with like the part of you that's a kid, right? That can just make things up immediately and like engage other. It's like a weird mix of like interpersonal skills with like being a
Design.
complete child.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
no
Yeah,
plan
mechanics,
survives
physical.
contact with the players.
Yeah, and that's a strength. That's an asset, I think. Like I think that's something that a lot of DMs are afraid of. Of like I planned all this stuff and I put all this work, but they went in a different direction. I have to. No, it's like don't plan any of that. Just you know in your head what that is. Like you don't need to like write it out in super intricate detail. Like you know what that is,
Right.
You know like what a sentence conjures in your mind if you write it in a way that does that. So it's
make a lexicon, like make a language, right?
Alexa,
Made for you.
play D&D Adventures.
yeah, Alexa DM my group.
I wonder if that would work.
Yeah, Alexa DM my group.
Let's not say that too loudly, or else Jeff Bezos is gonna be on it.
You enter a hallway. It is a warehouse. Several people are crying in the corner.
I
You have
can't
a bottle.
remember.
Your bladder is full. What do you do?
Your
Bottle
bladder is
empty.
full. So are your bowels.
Hang on.
And so is your sorrow.
There was
Which do you eat
something.
first?
There was
A
something
break lasts 15
somewhere.
minutes. It takes 15
was,
minutes to get across the warehouse.
They released Skyrim for Alexa.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember that. It was like
Yeah.
Key was in it, right?
Yeah, Keegan-Michael Key did the
Yeah.
commercial, right?
Yeah.
Shit was funny.
He was yelling.
Yeah, and he's just like, "Oh wait, I eat the cheese," and then his wife is like, "Aren't you lactose intolerant?" He's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, baby, I'm trying to cut back." I eat the cheese.
He heard him,
fucking
and she was
great.
like, "Give me half your money." I think that's what happened to him. I think he got divorced. It's a really random anecdote, but
Quite, in fact.
All right. Anecdote we leave on? Divorce.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, hang on.
That. You too will never find happiness.
Wait, no, you're
This
not
is when we
supposed to say
introduce
that
our
out
sponsor,
loud.
right? Yeah.
yeah, eHarmony. We were sponsored
Yeah.
by eHarmony.
Sponsored by eHarmony.
Hey,
You too can find your special geek like Foxy.
attention, lesbian,
currently
I'm right
looking.
here. Hello, ladies, please.
We hooked Key up with his new partner, and we did it through eHarmony. So it's a service that
Are we allowed to say this online? Like, will we get clapped by the YouTube bot?
Probably not.
or like
Fine, right?
falsifying a
Yeah.
sponsor.
I doubt it.
Probably just got a thank you letter.
Thing?
It qualifies as fair use because no reasonable person would think we're serious.
But
What
the
about
bot,
Yeah.
the
eHarmony?
bot
Do
might.
they think we're serious?
The bot might pick it up.
Look,
You
that's,
do-
Who cares?
Just cut it out. Cut out the whole.
that's
I don't-
literally the legalese. Is no reasonable person would assume.
No one needs to. He doesn't need to hear this and have his business reminded of. Just cut it out.
Yeah, like,
It's fine.
We can
Edit
say
and post.
whatever ridiculous nonsense we want, so long as it's so obviously ridiculous, no reasonable person would assume it's true.
Don't look it up. It might be true. It might not be true. If it's not true, I want to formally apologize. Michael, what's his name? Michael Key?
Keegan-Michael Key.
Michael Key. I'm sorry that I said that about you and your either current or ex-wife. I'm not sure what the situation is, but just want to say I'm sorry.
Keegan-Michael Key, you're genius and really funny, and I actually adore watching you all the time. That's all.
You heard it here first. Straight from the Dice Goblins. Formal apology.
Our first of many.
Our first.
Next time you Jordan Peele. I heard what you said about Key.
So I'm gonna be the guy that actually looked it up. So he did get divorced in 2017.
Oh, he did?
But he's also remarried.
Nice. Bounce back.
Oh, fair enough. Well done. That's normal
So-
for a lot of celebrities, let's be real.
Yeah.
He's got that mindset. He's like, I'm not gonna let this hold me down. On to the next one.
On
That
to the next
bazillionaire
one.
grind
Oh.
That's an approach, I guess.
Got that
Ladies,
Sigma male bazillionaire grind set.
ladies,
Give
I'm
him-
just letting you know, it won't be the next one.
Ooh, there you
Yeah, I
go.
know.
Commitment.
Admit
Hell yeah.
it's coming back in style.
Chivalry
So-
is alive and well. It's a lesbian.
This is kind of random, but I don't think I like video games anymore.
No.
Fair.
I literally cannot find a single thing to care about in that industry.
It's kind of
Well,
bad. It's so bad.
Disco
Especially if you
Elysium
like,
was
like,
pretty amazing, I have to say though.
oh, it's so fucking
Yeah.
good. We talked pretty extensively about that.
Yeah,
About disco. God damn, I wish we still had that recording.
I know. It's
Yeah.
I was like, I'm never doing this again. This is too painful.
Right,
Look,
so,
I'm
so
trying not
to anyone
derail this.
confused, Melvin originally had an idea for doing a podcast. You first interviewed Foxy, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
also interviewed
We talked
me
for like
like
an
right
Yeah,
hour.
I
after.
know. And then like
Yeah.
the recording's not corrupted,
Yep.
essentially. And I suspect I must have done something wrong.
I think it was the
And
bot
that
you
was
were
Melvin.
using. It wasn't very good.
It was a pretty weird bot, yeah. So.
And also, I derailed the entire thing to talk about queer issues for far too long, so it's probably better, right?
Hey, we can save it for Dice
cool.
Goblins.
Yeah.
I've been holding off on derailing this entire podcast to talk about queer issues.
We could do a thing, maybe like another episode later on down the line. It'd be interesting to be able to hear more of those perspectives from that side of the D&D community, especially because it's a very, it's a big part of it.
It
So
really
yeah,
is
I'd like to have some
anymore.
more.
Increasingly.
TTRPGs in general are becoming more and more and more queer in so many ways, and it's a huge population of the player base, but it's not a very big population of the creator base.
That's true. It is mostly the players and whatnot. I would like to say though that I think the visibility might be more of the thing. That it's more of the visibility of those people, because I think they've been in the community for a while.
Well,
But just
there is just more of us.
I guess it depends what you're talking about, though. Because if you're talking about Wizards,
Wizards is still not very good in that regard.
yeah, like Wizards is a.
Hey, Trad is bad, folks.
The way I think about a company like Wizards is that they're a public company, right? So every decision they make is about making shareholders more money.
Yeah.
So everything is going to be insincere unless they do actually hire people to work the projects, and that's always a good thing.
And that's the problem.
But I don't think that's what they're actually.
They haven't been.
Didn't they have something recently with Rhymer the Frost Maiden? I don't want to use this as an example, mostly because I didn't like that adventure, but I do want to bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
They made like kind of a thing of it to where they had a lot of people of color. I think there were some people in the LGBT community as well, that they had a part of the, I'm not sure if it was the writing or something of it, but they were part of the development of that adventure. It's nowhere near as big as what Paizo did with the Mwangi Expanse, though. I think
Paizo
Foxy's familiar with that.
Paizo's been good from almost moment one about this sort of thing, about employing and listening to and talking to queer people and people of color about what they're doing, whereas Wizards has been an insular, almost entirely white dudes company since its creation.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is just letting people who are talented and who are also different than the norm, like just letting them have those opportunities. I think
give them a chance.
Just like actually hire them, because I think a lot of time people just want to maintain the culture of what they're used to in the company. Whereas, of course, there's a lot of creative people who have all different kinds of identities.
The problem is that they don't.
Yeah.
The people who are already there don't want to change it, so they're not hiring people, frankly, like me or like you.
Yeah, it's because they know each other, right? And like they're making this product.
Right, the familiarity has got to be something to do with it. And they don't just do it just because they're twirling their mustaches.
Yeah, and they have no profit incentive to do it either. Yeah. They're making money as is, so they don't really necessarily. Although D&D doesn't really make that much money for Wizards, it's mostly Magic.
Yeah,
isn't Magic it's actually like accounting for the majority of
Magic?
Wizards, like like income when it comes to them on Hasbro. Yeah.
Magic.
D&D is just kind of like breaking even and making like more. I mean, it is profitable. It's definitely profitable, but it's
profitable. But the problem with D&D is once you buy a book, you don't have to return and buy another book. As opposed to Magic, you buy a pack of Magic cards, you got to go buy another pack of Magic cards.
You actually have to buy your books as many as 3 times now for D&D, because you have to buy the physical book, and then you have to buy it on D&D Beyond, and then you have to buy the compendium entry on whatever virtual tabletop you use.
World of Darkness tried to do an interesting thing where they tried to have a whole meta plot that they continued, like book to book. So there are people just buying those books just to kind of read it, but that all turned to shit. So I guess you got to keep your writing tight somehow.
You want to talk meta plots? Legend of the Five Rings, which nobody has ever played. It's an RPG, and it's also, it's dead now, but it used to be a card game.
Yeah.
And the thing is, their world champion every year would get to decide the next story beats for the overall story.
That's
so if you won the world championship of L5R, you got to tell them what happens next.
Yeah,
Did
I've
any of
heard
you guys
about
ever play
this.
the RPG for that?
I haven't. I
haven't.
want to.
It's a lot of fun. I
Really?
played 2 different campaigns with that. Yeah, I really liked it. I really liked this idea. Like, to anyone who's not familiar with the system, you have your stats are broken up into the 5 rings of. I think they're based on the 5 Chinese elements, except for I think instead of wood, it's void, is the element there. So it's like fire, earth, air, wind, and void.
Oh,
But
like
yeah,
the
like
the feng shui stuff, right? Where like
yeah,
they all play off of each
yeah.
other.
So like there's like a thing too that's really interesting to where you kind of like switch stances when you're in combat. But then there's this thing to where you have like 2 sheets. You have like your sheet when you're in like the game's kind of like exploration kind of mode when you're just like fucking off and role playing and doing other things like that. But then you have like conflict mode, which has its own like sheet and it carries over your rings. You switch stances and whatnot like in combat, but you also do the same thing when you're in like a conversation. So if you're trying to use a conversation to give leverage, to get leverage from somebody, attempt to make a bargain with a powerful crime boss, like there's literally conversation boss battles in that game.
That's
so
It's pretty
cool.
cool. Like,
The
yeah.
card game was weirdly similar. You had 2 decks, not one. One of them was vaguely resources, and the other one was vaguely offensive stuff. So, like, they took that same idea into the card game. It was
I
super
like that a
unique.
lot. I like the idea of having 2 different decks that do 2 different things.
But unfortunately, that's the reason it never took off very big.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the economy of that design is totally bad shit.
Yeah.
I feel like I wish I had Kunighan to make this comparison because he played Edge of the Empire before. But in the Star Wars game, Edge of the Empire, made by Fantasy Flight Games, something I feel like that holds it back is probably that same kind of idea. You have to have special dice in that game. Like, they're really cool. They're called like the narrative dice.
I remember those.
Yeah, but then you can't use your normal dice. Like, you can, but you have to like convert things, and it's weird, and it's not
Yeah.
like 1-to-1. That kind of sucks.
That's
I
why
feel
I,
like
didn't
stuff like that,
actually
those
buy it or
gimmicks,
get
like-
into it.
Yeah.
It's literally why I didn't buy it or get into it. I'm
See,
like, oh, I
that's
can't
funny,
use
right?
my already existing dice. Then
Yeah.
I guess if I
Right,
want
yeah.
to play Star Wars, I'm gonna look up the old Saga edition, which is D20 based.
Oh,
So it's like,
right,
even
yeah. I
though,
remember
and
those
I will
books.
say this, and fuck anyone who says otherwise, Edge of the Empire is just better. Like, it's just fucking better. And if you don't play it, you're
Oh, it's a great
You know,
system.
yeah.
I
It sucks though
didn't
because like
wanna
I
have to
know
buy
people
all new
didn't play it.
dice.
They were
Exactly.
like,
I know people didn't play
This
it
is Star
because
Wars,
of
okay? You buy our
Yeah.
dice.
that.
Alright.
They were cool
Gotta buy our
dice,
Disney
to be
dice.
fair. They're
Disney
very
Yeah.
cool dice.
Those books look cool. Like
No, I don't think they're owned by Disney, but it's still.
yeah, they got Mickey Mouse like is one
Yeah,
of
they
the
got
faces.
Mickey Mouse themed dice.
Yeah, that means you
got
win.
Mandalorian dice.
That means you win.
Yeah.
If you roll 2 of them, you
Yeah, there's
automatically
2
win.
triumphs on this D12.
Oh shit! Double Mickey.
Isn't
You get 2 Mickey.
Isn't the 5 rings like? Wasn't that like Musashi wrote that or something? It was like the culmination of his like training. He like wrote it and lived like a hermit for the rest of his life.
Shit, I'm not entirely familiar with the lore behind
No idea.
Legend of the 5 Rings.
I think the game itself is like completely. It's kind of like an amalgamation of Asian mysticism, right? Like there's like Mongolian and like Chinese and Japanese is all kind of in there, right? And, like,
Isn't
Tibetan probably.
Rokugan also the? Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it the original setting that was like Karator in D&D, or am I completely mistaken?
What is Rokugan?
Yeah, not a clue. No idea what you're talking about. Sorry,
Or
Crow.
what the fuck is it called? My bad. I might have mixed up the name.
You could.
What the fuck is the name of the landmass in that setting?
In the D&D one?
Not the D&D one. The D&D one's Karator, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like an Asian themed place in the older stuff, like 2E, right? Maybe even 3E. I don't know. I have no idea about that part of the lore. That's some old head stuff. Straight from the OSR. Or I guess the OSR would dip into that.
Yeah, Rokugan. That's the name of the fucking landmass in Legend of the 5 Rings. I was right.
Okay, cool.
Oh, okay. So it's like a fictional Asia that
Yeah.
has these like themed places, right? Or like kingdoms. I have no idea. I'm asking you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's-
there were.
I think they were even like
what were
divided
Hmm.
some of the areas between like the what are they called again? Because like the different clans, I think they even like base them off of like different ethnicities as well.
Yeah.
Like there's a thing to where I remember the horse rider ones are kind of like Mongol themed.
That makes
From what I
sense.
remember, the guys who go beyond, because they have like this great wall
You don't
separates
say.
them from like the Shadowlands. It's like this place where all the evil, bad spirits are in.
Oh, that's cool. Like the hungry ghosts, are they in there?
Yeah, it's like a
Like a Buddhist
bunch of like
hell
evil
kind of
ghosts
stuff.
and like yokai stuff. Yeah, yeah. I actually
Yeah.
really like how like Buddhist mythology kind of treat ghosts and stuff like that. It's kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
it is interesting because it's pretty much like Tibetan mysticism. It's like a mix of a bunch of stuff because I think like original Buddhism doesn't have any real mythology to it. It's just kind
Right.
of Buddha. Like people are just like, what about this? And he's like, just become enlightened.
Yeah,
And you're
Yeah.
like, but what about this?
I think
path to
that's about right.
enlightenment. It's not worship of someone.
I think Mahayana is when it gets into like all the cosmological stuff, and they've got like
Mm.
the cultures that become Buddha start influencing Buddhism.
I looked up all the clans from L5R. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, Crit Crab has his own clan in there too.
Oh, there is a crab clan. I remember that.
Oh,
Crab,
yeah.
Crab clan
In
is
the video I
one,
saw
of the,
about it.
one of the major clans. So there's
I'll
Crab,
be really happy to hear
Crane,
about that.
Crab, Crane, Dragon, Lion, Mantis, Phoenix, Scorpion, Unicorn, and Spider. Those are the major
Unicorn.
clans. The minor clans are Badger, Bat, Dragonfly, Fox, yay, Hare,
Nice.
Monkey, Oriole, Sparrow, and Tortoise. I'm just gonna start reading about the Fox clan. Don't mind me.
I want a cool. I'm sure it exists. I'm sure, especially in the OSR space. But I really want a good Hellenistic RPG.
Like sword and sandals kind of deal.
Yeah,
Ooh,
which is
that'd
like
be
the
awesome.
Greek canon and like Persian canon, probably.
Mm.
I thought it was interesting. I found out that I was listening to a podcast with Mike Tyson. The reason is
Tyson's
because
in a
apparently he's in like so many podcasts. He has his own. He's like a guest in a ton of them.
Everyone
But-
does podcasts now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I guess when
he
you
would-
hit 40, you got to do right.
Yeah, I guess so. He's a huge history buff about conquerors.
Oh,
Knows a
really?
lot about like histories, conquerors.
That
Yeah,
sounds on brand.
really, really well versed.
That sounds
Yeah.
on brand.
But it's interesting because like in the thing I saw, like Joe Rogan's asking him, you can tell he's kind of prompting him in a way to sort of get like a specific kind of answer. Not that he's doing it on purpose, but like he'll be like, what did you learn from like learning about all of these conquerors? And then you kind of expect like a specific type of answer, right? Like they had a certain mindset, they were larger than life, like that's kind of what you're expecting. And he'll be like, they were all mamas before. And then Rogan's like, what?
It's funny.
Yeah, it's like really interesting. And then like, what about like, there's an idea that Alexander the Great was really big and imposing, and that's why he was able to do what he did. But
Yeah.
he's like, then Tyson would be like, no, he was tiny.
Yeah.
He was like too small for his
He
armor.
was like 5'4" or something.
He
Just
was
super,
yeah.
super small.
He was a compact conqueror. And there's like a Darius, I think, who was like the first like Persian conqueror. I don't remember, but
I think his King Darius, I want to say the first. I think his name. I remember this because I remember listening to a podcast about this. He was called the King of Kings, was he not? I
Well,
believe
is he-
his title was Kurash.
is he the
Sounds
one who
bad
like
out.
freed all the slaves? That was his whole thing. He just wanted to like free all the
Yeah,
slaves.
and he was fucking
Yeah.
ruthless too.
Yeah, that's so interesting that like someone in that era was just like, I want to free all slaves. Everyone's like, are you crazy? It's like our whole economy. What are you talking about? It's like biblical times. What do you mean?
And then someone stands
Uh,
up to him and he just sets him on fire. It's like,
Yeah, there's so much cool stuff there that you can put into an RPG like that and make it just like part of that's got to exist. I need to find that.
If it doesn't exist, what you could do is take the board game Arabian Nights, use that for a lot of inspiration.
Oh, heard about this.
Oh, it's a good
It's
game.
like a cool narrative game, right?
Yeah, it's a narrative game and there's like different phases. It's kind of interesting because
Kinda cool.
each player has interaction with the other players, but you're on your own individual task and mission. It's
Mm.
really fun.
Speaking of board games, have any of you played Gloomhaven?
No.
Not
I've
yet.
heard about
I
it.
know.
And I mean the physical board game version, not the PC version.
What about the NFT version?
You can't actually play that, but you can brag to all of your Twitter followers that you definitely have it. They just have to trust you.
Yeah. Source, trust me, bro.
Yeah, basically. No, but Gloomhaven is an RPG campaign, except as a board game. It's so extensive and so cool, and the box is literally 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's like a ton of components, right?
It's
Oh
chunky.
yeah.
There's
Oh my.
an expansion that also works as a standalone game called Jaws of the Lion, which is much more compact.
Well,
if you want,
yeah,
like,
but
yeah. That came
Gloomhaven
out
is
kind of recently, I think, right?
Gloomhaven is meant to be a huge sprawling thing. It has this one huge board. You never use it for actual gameplay, but you use it to put stickers and other markers and stuff on to signify we beat this mission in the book, and that opens up this, and this because it's a legacy game.
Right.
Cool.
And then there's also like other classes that are locked until you do something in one of the missions to unlock them, and no one can play one until they're unlocked, and then everyone can.
That's kind of awesome. That kind of game. How's the combat in that game? Because I was about to say, like,
It's
I feel like that kind of game is probably what some people want out of, like, I know there are people who play tabletop RPGs and really hate the combat and really don't care for the story that should probably just play games like that instead.
They
Yeah.
should. It would actually be very, very good
Yeah.
for that. The combat is interesting. It's hard. It's very difficult, very punishing. It's all card based, and it not like drawing cards and all that other stuff. Using cards.
Like you
and
have, yeah.
once a card's used, you can't use it again until you like get your cards back. But there's only certain ways you can get your cards back, and it always involves you're going to have to discard one of them permanently for the rest of that dungeon. And
I
that's
like
what
stuff
makes
like
it
that.
so hard and brutal and just ugh.
Melvin,
Wait.
as you know from someone who loves playing OSR games, I'm a sucker for anything that has lasting consequences. I don't know, that is something that irks me, like, about a lot of trad games. And I want to say, unfortunately, even Pathfinder 2e even has this when it comes to hit points. I ran
Yeah.
into this problem when I made, like, a medic. I realized after every fight, pretty much can just get full health and not really have to worry about it. I don't know, like, I feel like when it comes to things like hit points and it comes to things like injuries, like, I like lasting things. Like,
Have you heard of?
I like the
At
You know
least
about-
in first edition, there was the optional rule for like serious wounds that could be lasting, and obviously they
Yeah.
could be eventually fixed with magic, but that's still lasting.
Cthulhu has that too, with like you can be seriously wounded, and that takes time to actually heal. And yeah,
it
Cthulhu's
it's just
essentially
weeks, doesn't it?
an OSR game. Yeah,
Like you actually have to go to
every
hospital.
week you have to roll a Constitution to get rid of your major wound. Do you know about Realms of Darkness? So it came out for Warhammer, one of the earlier editions, and it was just a whole kind of way of playing the game where you play as a chaos warband, tracking their potential or attempted ascent to princedom, right? And the way in Warhammer, the way it works is the reason why chaos is so seductive is because you can become an immortal, super powerful being by pledging
Yeah.
yourself to one of these gods and then undergoing the journey of service to them. And you're going to get mutated, you're going to get weird debilitating stuff happen, or you're going to get like really good boons. It's all really randomized, and that kind of adds to like the stories that come out of it, the story generation.
So
Yeah.
wait, you're telling me that chaos is chaotic? I don't believe you.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the thing is like, of course it is, right? But at the same time, shit, I mean, being an immortal like servant of Slanesh with crazy cool like snake body and wings and all the, it's like all that goofy stuff.
Right, and one titty.
Yeah, right.
Don't forget that.
That's such a weird design where it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Slanesh, and it's like I don't think he really thought this part through very well, but.
Come again?
So the
Oh,
idea is that
yeah.
Slanesh is like the prince of pleasure and perfection, and it's kind of like a hermaphrodite. So that one half is like masculine and the other half is female, which is like it's like taking an alchemical diagram of like the concept and making it a literal thing that happens to someone who like worships Slanesh. They since
So
got rid of it, but yeah.
Real quick. What's the rating on this podcast?
We don't care.
Artificial DM.
We do not care.
Okay.
Okay,
Awesome.
does that mean they also have only half a dick and it's split down the middle?
Oh, with Slanesh, it's
Oh,
going to be
God.
double. You're going to get
Oh yeah, so that's just like full Fudo, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but You could totally dig it that way. It's chaotic, right? So it's like, who knows what happens to all these adherents? Or the thing is though, with like the path to chaos is like, or you can just turn into a chaos spawn, right? You just become like a gibbering mutant.
It's usually when you fuck up, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but the path to fucking up is super easy. It's kind of like thinking like you can be a pro athlete, right? Being like, yeah, I'm pretty good at basketball. Like I think I stand a chance. And then you like go out on your journey and you meet like Michael Jordan. You're like, oh, you're gonna be the Chaos Prince. I'm just like gonna turn into like a gibbering puddle. So it's kind of it is a weird like multi-planar chaotic NBA, if you will.
Gotcha. Yeah, fucking so interesting to me, like how those elements of 40K, like I don't know, like I feel like it never really pops up too often. Like I feel like a lot of focus is mostly on things like, I guess like the things that I'm least interested in, like the Space Marines
Hopefully
and whatnot.
we got this right.
Yeah,
Like a
because
lot
you
of that
can tell
attention
this
gets
void.
Kind of let them know.
Space fascists are the thing that attracts real life fascists, so they get both the positive and the negative attention.
I mean, like Space Marines are really cool, and their whole lore
They're
is really
cool.
cool.
I will
With,
admit,
like,
they're
The
pretty
Primarchs
Their-
and all that stuff is
Their lore
really
is
interesting.
very bad.
You don't like the Space Marine lore?
Oh,
What part? What part is do you think is the weakest?
for a long time, I think I remember hearing that they reverted this, but for a long time, women could not be Space Marines ever because apparently the weird artificial genetic modifications to make you stronger
the
and more
gene seed,
powerful
right?
than anything is so inherently male that you can't give it to a woman ever, no matter what.
That's actually a
I
really
always-
interesting
yeah.
point because I feel like that kind of goes back to like when like talking about something like Realms of Chaos in an older edition is really much about like here's a bunch of tools, here's a bunch of fun stuff that gets your imagination going, and that's kind of the idea of a lot of these games. But eventually, you got to sell toys and you got to sell a brand and everything. So, but ostensibly, sure, if you want to have female Space Marines or any type of Space Marine, you can totally do that and justify it and be like, this is just what. And then in some part of the galaxy, there's a planet with, they got this chapter of Space Marines.
Well,
But
So actually very funny. I read an RPG horror story about this specific thing, about a guy who was running it, and he was like, basically there was a lady, she was like, oh, I want to be a female Space Marine.
Mhm.
And he's like, we can try to make it work. I could do this, but you won't have access to XYZ because of lore reasons. And
fuck
basically he was
off.
like,
That's so stupid.
and so he was like, I can't change the entire fabric of the entire lore to make it work for you, basically.
It's totally designed to be that way. Like it's designed to be modular, but
not
because the
anymore.
It's not that I don't think that's necessarily not anymore. I just think that if you go by the orthodoxy of Games Workshop and what they, the kind of like money generating face that's presented with that, then I say, yeah, that's the case.
If
Because
you
like
go by the officially published lore that is universally agreed upon because it's official and recognized, you can't.
but also it's a very
I remember reading about this.
conversion heavy game. Yeah, I agree with you. I do agree with what you're saying. Like it's a thing that's not accepted with a subset of players for sure.
Good thing you mentioned this. I remember reading about this before, and I just typed it in on the Bell of Lost Souls. Apparently, in the earliest incarnations of 40K, there were actually female Space Marines.
There was like everything. Like it was just a big like
It used to
hodgepodge
be
of
way more
ideas.
open with that. It's just
Yeah.
more that like it's more that the people kind of did this. Like
And
when
then
it
a
comes to
bunch
things
of-
like the books and shit like that, like
Yeah.
or even like the bro culture surrounding it. Like
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
dudes
And then a
did
bunch
that.
of man
Like,
children
the
got
male-
very
the- no, no.
angry. A bunch of man children got very angry that girls were allowed in their playhouse.
But I mean, if you
That
think
happens
about it,
all
how
the time.
hot would a female Space Marine be? Like that's so
me,
many
mommy.
people's fetish. Like
Well,
Should be like
Considering
that.
she-
Especially after Dimitrescu, right?
she'd
Yeah, for
probably
sure.
be
Gotta
like
have
a
my Dami
muscle-bound
mommy
whack
Space
job.
Marine.
She'd probably be a muscle-bound whack job who's roided out of her mind like every other Space Marine.
yeah, but
Yeah.
if Fulgrim had female Space Marines, can you imagine? Like Fulgrim is like the Primarch who became like the Slanesh Demon Prince. So he was like really like regal and elegant, dedicated to perfection. He had this like long, luminous white hair and kind of like was like impossibly beautiful. If that character's gene seed went to like turning other types of people into Space Marines, that would be super interesting. Just
I
like
thought
all
the
of-
only gene seed was the one from the Emperor.
each Primarch has their
the-
own, which
Yeah.
the Legion is then 30k, right? Like before the Horus Heresy, they had the Legions, and those are each Primarch's armies that they get like the gene therapy to make them kind of in the image of their Primarchs, but also individuals. They're all like individuals.
Because
I think-
I was gonna
Oh,
say,
good.
you'd get super buff ladies that no straight man would reasonably want. That's not what y'all like.
Whoa,
I know what y'all
whoa,
like.
Whoa, whoa,
I
And
ain't my
ain't
dummy
that.
mummies, all right?
I know what
that-
y'all like. It ain't that.
Listen, people like all types of things.
Yes, they do.
Oh yeah.
Like Wonder Bread women.
I don't know
What's
what
that?
the hell that is, but that sounds.
Oh, you don't know about the
interesting.
Wonder Bread dude?
No.
Okay, so there's a guy who's popular online. He commissions art of middle-class white women who are buying unhealthy amounts of Wonder Bread.
That sounds
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah, like Shadman has turned him down for a commission. It's just
And then they bring it back to their McMansion.
it's so specific what he wants and what makes him tick, and it's just like
That's
okay.
amazing. Where do you think that comes from? Like this, like that must
Like a
be.
shame fetish, maybe.
I have
It's
no idea.
impossible it's impossible to predict where everything
Just
like that comes from.
yeah, it's got to be just like your sexuality suddenly dawns when you're like in the supermarket, like the first thing you see.
There was this hot mom, and she was bent over getting the Wonder Bread.
Oh my gosh, are they all like
her
thick?
kid, her fucking kid was like yelling at her, like it just woke up in you, right?
Yeah, just like what is it? The Kundalini rose.
The first time you had sex was atop a row of Wonder Bread.
Yeah,
Smelling.
they're pretty thick.
Middle-aged white woman perfume.
Like they gotta be. That's like part of the whole aesthetic. Let me look this up.
Here's an example.
Oh, thank you. Very convenient.
That's not thick.
It's close enough. Oh, that's not the
No,
one
it
I
isn't.
wait. That's not the one I sent it to you. Hang on. That's not,
That is a
That's
very
definitely not
skinny
thick.
person.
There's a lot of variety, it seems.
I have to save this image and then upload it.
Thanks for the link, because you just reminded me of Big Chungus, and it's just great. As I scrolled down, I
That's
just
what
saw
that's what it
Chungus.
was showing as the image.
So, yeah, that's really specific.
Yeah, a lot of art.
That second one looks kind of bleak. Like the
Yeah, there's
complete lack
something
of
kinda-
background.
Yeah, there's something like horror in this,
Yeah,
and
it's
no
like
organics, and it's like kind of like
existentially
Otherworldly.
thrilling.
yeah, there's something kind of like I don't know, like eldritch, like horror about this.
Yeah, just like a void
There's some
of
shit you don't see,
a
Can I-
world of no meaning.
Can I read?
She's got like lizard eyes.
Can I read way too deep into this?
Yeah,
Sure.
please. We already are.
You're gonna have to bear with me on this one. What if it's a fetish where the person commissioning the art has a thing specifically for white women who only like white men, and white people are often described as being Wonder Bread. Especially this last one, it has all white above the shelving unit.
I mean, that is a little suspicious. I'm not sure about the rest of it, but that is suspicious.
And I'm just like,
You know?
is this a weird white supremacist thing?
But like,
No, I don't think it's that
no
deep.
organics thing.
Is it? Look, we're overanalyzing someone's weird fetish art, so we've gone like off 10 deep end by now.
Yeah.
I feel like I think it's a really artful thing to jack off to. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I feel like it's got to be so like it's. I feel like it's just the bread squishy and the wrapper or something like that. It's like this pure
Like,
lizard
maybe
brain
it's
id
simple.
stuff.
Yeah.
She-
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
it shows
That aside,
Like, it's
thanks for
actually
tuning
way
in,
simpler
Dice
than we think it
Goblins.
is.
it shows that she's financially stable, but she's frugal with her money, and therefore she's buying the cheaper bread. I don't know. Who knows? It's weird.
Yeah, it's the economic race, like identity. There's a
I'm just,
lot that he meditates.
I'm just sitting here like, all that bread is gonna go stale before you eat even half of it.
Maybe she's got a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Maybe kids are part of the fetish.
That's possible.
Like
maybe
not
that
kids, not kids
That's
as the
an
fetish,
argument,
but
yeah.
but like she is a mother, and
Someone with kids.
Yes.
Yes.
Her fertility.
yes,
It's
And
like a
wait,
it's like a 6
wait.
degrees of separation mom fetish.
yeah.
It says
The bread
no
is like a
organic.
measure.
Is she a robot and she's eating the kids, and that's the Wonder Bread?
No,
She thinks
kids,
all they need is Wonder Bread.
kids are organic.
Yeah, but no organics because they're all machines. Like no
So-
organics allowed in the
It feels
store.
like a Bukowski
geez.
like poem or something. You know what I mean? It's like
The no organics makes it feel like someone who's just like, I hate all healthy food, which, I mean, Wonder Bread, that's got more sugar in it than most anything else.
Right.
yeah, it has more
Like-
more sugar than Sprite.
Oh, probably. Like if you were to
Probably,
eat,
I believe
if you were to eat an entire loaf of Wonder Bread, that's probably more sugar than
Yeah.
an entire can of
Just wreck
Sprite.
yourself.
Like, it's not quite as bad. Like, Subway's white bread had to be reclassified as cake because there was too much sugar in it for it to be classified as bread.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Just like they're just like whatever, man. We're selling this bread. We don't give a shit.
Their wheat
These
bread I
people.
still love. I'm basic sometimes. Foxy's gotta be a basic bitch every once in a while.
Hey,
There ain't
it's-
nothing wrong with being a
There's
basic
nothing
bitch.
wrong with it.
It's true.
Yeah,
So,
I love
um,
pumpkin spice lattes.
Oh, they're so good.
They're
So,
really good.
how
Sue
are
me.
all of you going to use what you learned today in your RPG games going forward?
Ooh, good question. Art, we'll start with you.
Crashing economies.
We can just use that.
We're gonna
Just for
crash.
fun.
We're gonna crash economies by using women that are roided out as space marines that like to buy white bread from their bakeries.
Love it.
How are we crashing the
Pro?
economies by doing so? No idea, but we'll get there.
Yeah, probably. Bro.
What could I do? Well, you see, I do like the Wonder Bread idea. So, I'm just going to have a shop owner that just sells Wonder Bread. And I'm going to take that no organics thing and he's going to be a Warforged. So he's just going to be a Warforged in like a small general store that's kind of like, in that weird spacey kind of art style. You feel like there's something behind the door. And that's when you find out it's like the Soylent Green kind of situation where the Wonder Bread is people.
Oh
The Wonder
boy.
Bread.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually like this. Do that.
Okay.
That sounds gold.
All right. What about you, Foxy?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a homebrew magic item called Adventra, and you can use it, pilot a mobile adventurer by shouting directions at it, like Skyrim Special Edition.
I love it.
Oh,
I forgot about that.
Pod would approve.
Oof.
callback.
Adventra. And also, Adventra will play songs for you from your bard's repertoire. You can
Does it
say
play
things
Skyrim?
like, Adventra, this is so sad. Play Despacitious.
Adventure will be like, it is time for your appointment. I'm going to say, what do you mean? It said it's time for your appointment. You are to represent Key in his divorce trial.
Crap. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Melvin, go. What are you going to do?
I am doing a planet of technologically advanced Amazonians who have a bread economy.
Hot.
Pog.
Can I go there?
Literally fog.
Can I go there?
Yeah.
I'll find a wife there, clearly.
Yeah. They have eHarmony on that planet.
I'll introduce them to sourdough.
Oh. You're
That will
going
change
to be
the
like a
game.
That's
Rockefeller.
just
Yeah.
that is
The best bread.
Yes.
Fight me, nerd.
What about you, RPG Tales?
I'm gonna have a wizard create an entire card game, and everyone's just going to play it, but it's all gonna be magic based, and so it's all gonna be NFT based.
Nice.
Amazing.
I can imagine the players, they come to this town and everybody's just addicted, being like, do you have wizard cards or whatever the heck it's gonna be called? That sounds like it would actually be a
so
lot of
much
fun.
money.
Actually, crap. Okay, Kunik's not here, but so Kunik's playing in my friend's Pathfinder 2nd Edition game with me, and as a one-off joke in like the first or second session, the map that the DM used for the inn on one of the tables, it looked like someone was playing a collectible card game, and so I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go over there and play Magic," and they're like, "You're in a fantasy universe. It's not Magic." I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go over and play Science the Happening." And now I have the lore skill in Science the Happening.
All right. So I'm going to spend this turn and I'm going to go to work for 8 hours and I'm going to collect insurance benefits. So I'm going to draw 3 cards.
Okay, so I have my two.
I'm going to place that. So there should be enough productivity and I'm going to spend that to...
That's capitalism the happening, not science the happening.
Progress
I,
report.
It
Progress
still works.
report.
I
Yeah.
tap my 2 chemistry labs for 3 substance, and then I'm going to use that substance to finish the research stage of my nuclear fission, and then that allows me to cast bomb, and you lose the game.
Yeah. NaCl.
Siri, develop DMT.
I'm just
Still
gonna
playing
tap-
Despacito.
Oh, that's good.
I was gonna say I could just tap my 2 hydrogen and oxygen and just make water.
Ooh.
Ooh, that produces a blue mana.
I'm just imagining there's some guy listening to them play, and he's like, "Yeah, I combine my 2 hydrogen and my oxygen," and then some guy's like, "This game is like some kind of baby game. It's all made up hydrogen." And then he goes on to like, what's it called? Like cast create food and water.
Right? That would be that's basically kind of the environment. I love that.
Anyway, it's just like making fun of it like casually. Anyway, I think this is probably a good spot to leave off.
I wanted to thank you guys for coming on to the show. Thanks for guest starring. And yeah,
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
it was a lot
Yeah,
of
it
fun.
was.
Covered a lot of ground, talked about a lot of stuff. And now we know what to put into our games for for some absolute
There's so many ideas that have been exchanged.
Adventura,
the-
play the Dice Goblins outro. Do we have an outro?
No,
Do we have
no,
an outro?
no, not yet.
Dice Goblins, they are the goblins who roll dice. We're Dice Goblins.
Yeah, we'll definitely use that.
It's a work in progress.
It's trademarked now.
I've got to write. Don't worry about it.
We'll make an NFT.
Well, like, isn't like Mozart like open source or something? Just put in like
Yeah. Let's see. Mozart.
put a whole opera. movement
Dice Goblins, Dice Goblins. We are goblins that roll dice.
Who
Oh,
was
that's
it
pretty
again?
good.
The one with the cannons?
The Surprise Symphony by Dvorak. I'm a music nerd. Don't at me.
Oh, we learned
Nice.
something new.
We're the diciest of goblin kind. We're the
Oh.
diciest of goblin kind.
And it's
We're the
firing, the cannons
diciest
firing
of
goblins.
goblin kind. Boom! Sorry, I got cut off. I got shot by a cannon.
Alright, yeah, it was lovely having you guys on.
This was
Yeah.
fun.
That was rad.
Bye, everyone.
Right, we should probably do outros, huh?
I think just same by works.
I have a standardized YouTube outro. So let's douse the fire and get back to our own adventures.
What do you all think about this situation?
Do we all just do our outro?
I didn't do that.
That's copyrighted.
What is that from? Like,
Fucking Steve Urkel, right?
oh,
Yeah.
yikes.
Alright, I'm gonna stop recording now.